Alright, what's up? What's going on, guys? It's your boy Chumbles, and I'm back with another video. This time we are going to be going over when to buy ICEBORN Gauntlet and when to buy Trinity Force. So, this has been pretty much the age-old question since ICEBORN has come out. Trinity Force and ICEBORN both have similar features, which is why both, for example, AD Nidalee and Ezreal AD carry or even mid lane sometimes it's people get a little confused as what to buy. So that's what I'm going to be going over. Specifically for me, I'm going to be talking more about top lane, just a little bit, as like matchup wise, and I'm going to just quickly go over the facts, and I'll put that on the screen as well so you can see what I'm talking about. So just as stat wise, I don't want to get too deep into like pricing and everything, but for stat wise, we'll start off with ICEBORN Gauntlet. The stats are 65 armor, 20% magic, or 20% cooldown reduction, and 500 mana. So those are the base stats that you get once you have completed ICEBORN Gauntlet. Now the stats that you get when you complete Trinity Force are 25 attack damage, 40% attack speed, 20% cooldown reduction, 250 health, 5% move speed, and 250 mana. Now, when you compare these two items, what I personally look at is what's going to give me the most for a completed item. Now, this isn't in all cases, but when I'm comparing these two, that's what I'm going to basically look at. So, for example, I see 20% and 20% cooldown reduction from both sides. So you're getting the equal amount of cooldown reduction. You're not getting any more from ICEBORN or any more from Trinity Force. But with Trinity Force, I see 25 attack damage, 40% attack speed, 250 health, and the one stat that has been looked over, personally, I think, a lot is 5% movement speed. Now, why these stats matter is basically because as a top laner, or even as an AD carry, those stats are just so viable to you and pretty much needed, especially in top lane where you're going to be split pushing and fighting people 1v1 or 1v2. Now, the base stats that you're going to get from ICEBORN with 65 armor, obviously, that is really good. That's very helpful. But you're not getting anything to actually supplement that armor right away. So now I'm going to go into their passives. The unique passive for ICEBORN Gauntlet reads Spellblade. After using an ability, your next basic attack within 10 seconds deals 100% base AD on hit bonus damage. And it has a 1.5 second cooldown, which basically means you can't just keep spamming it if you have low cooldown champion like Nidalee. So Nidalee's takedown reads Nidalee's next basic attack has 200 range, so that's when it's activated, when you have it pressed. And this is modified to deal magic damage increased by an amount for every 1% of the target's missing health. And then hunt bonus takedown deals 40% increased damage to hunted targets. So the actual stats of this, so increased damage ranks from 1 to 4, which is 1 at 1%, 1.25, 1.5, and 1.75. And the minimum damage reads 5, 35, 55, 80. And then Prowl enhanced minimum damage is 7, 42, 77, 136. And the minimum magic damage has a plus 75% AD plus 40% AP. And then the damage with enhanced minimum damage is 105% AD plus 65% AP. So it's important to know that the Sheen from Spellblade's passive, while in Cougar form Q, converts the base physical damage to magic damage. We'll look into the last passive from both of these items, which reads, Icy Zone, triggering Spellblade, also deals 100% base AD, again, to enemies surrounding the target and creates an icy zone for 2 seconds, which slows the enemy within 30%. The zone has a radius of 180, and then it increases for 55% bonus armor that you get, which includes runes / masteries plus obviously items. So it's really important to know that the slow is actually really important. Or, oh my god, whatever. It's important to know that the slow is a really good factor in the game. And this solely is the reason why people would actually compare the two items. If this passive did not exist on Iceborn, Trinity Force would be miles ahead of this item. This item would never get touched. So this is really, really, really important. And the passive for Trinity Force, its last passive, unique, is Rage. Basic attack on hit grants flat 20 movement speed for 2 seconds. Killing a unit grants 60 flat movement speed instead. Bonus movement speed is halved on ranged champions. So this is also what I was talking about with having this item that is perfect for split pushing, and also just kiting in its own specific way. Now, you're not really using this passive much in team fights, for example, but obviously it will happen if you get kills. So it's more about killing a unit, so a minion, and when you're running away, for example, with Nidalee, you can spear, go into Cougar, W, and if you know that spear is going to kill the minion, it'll actually proc your W passive because it's on cooldown right now, which halves it, and then you can use your W again, which you see a lot in my gameplays that I do, and I use that quite a bit, and it creates this whole other gap between you and the enemy champion. Now, so you might be thinking, why would anybody pick Iceborn? It seems that Trinity Force has all these things that Iceborn has, but can do them just a little bit better. And personally, I kind of feel the same way, but the one major factor, other than the slow that provides Iceborn Gauntlet, is the cost of the two items. The difference between Iceborn Gauntlet and Trinity Force being 3,733 gold, whereas Iceborn Gauntlet is 2,700. This is a pretty big difference when it comes to gold factors, because in that gap, you can manage to buy a Giant's Belt, for example, which would mean Iceborn Gauntlet would have 265 armor, plus the health of Giant's Belt, which I was talking about, that armor is great, but you need health to supplement it. Well, if you have a Giant's Belt, you are supplementing towards that armor. And then you also have the cooldown, the passives, the mana, all that kind of good stuff. So you're actually comparing a little more with Iceborn than you are with Trinity Force, and it kind of makes them closer to equal. But on my personal opinion, I think Trinity Force is just a tad higher and just better in most situations. Now, that does not mean every situation, so I'm going to quickly go over some of the differences between Iceborn, like the pros, and the pros between Trinity Force. And then you guys can decide whether you agree with me or whether you disagree, just as a general or with Nidalee specifically. So for personally me, if the mid laner and the top laner are both AD physical champions, physical damage dealing champions, then most of the time I will pick Iceborn because, again, I'm going to get that 65 armor, I'm going to get the passives, and I can buy that Giant's Belt with the extra gold that I saved, and I will be a lot tankier and I won't basically die right away to them. Iceborn Gauntlet is great into champs that are easily kited. This one's pretty obvious. Some examples are Renekton in the top lane, specifically, like I said, with Nidalee. Renekton, Riven, Maokai. These are champions that you can kite out, and it gives you that small percentage or that small window gap to create a distance between you and the other champion, which makes you be able to attack them in range form with Nidalee and just keep poking them down and try to finish them off with your combo in Cougar form. If you're behind early and you're not able to access CS or farm or gold, Iceborn Gauntlet is the better choice. You don't want to get Trinity Force at 25 minutes. It's not going to help you spike anymore at that point. So Iceborn Gauntlet would be better to rush in that case when you are behind. Provides lots of armor, like I said, and it's very cheap for what you are provided. So once again, when you're comparing the two items, you do have these very valuable stats in both areas. Personally, I think Trinity Force provides more valuable stats, but when you factor in if you're behind, if you can kite the champs, if they have AD tops and mid, then I personally think that Iceborn is the better item in those situations. So Trinity Force, the long-lasting meme of tons of damage. Now this is literally the case with this item. It does provide you tons of damage, and that's why it is so expensive. So when you, like I said before, you are paying for what you get for it with Trinity Force. You are getting these crazy valuable stats that you do in situations actually require. So you can go maining builds with Trinity Force. I believe this to be really true. You can go in so many directions. Right now I'm doing the Triforce Sunfire build, which I think works really, really, really well. Also, you can go different paths with it. So Triforce into just full tank, for example, like I've been doing. Triforce into more damage. And that's kind of the thing where Trinity Force does a lot better than Iceborn Gauntlet does in that regard. If you are ahead in lane, or even able to CS properly, this is really important as well. If you're able to get that item basically at close to the 15-minute mark, that's when it is super, super, super powerful, and you spike up in damage like crazy. Almost nobody can 1v1 you in top lane once you have your Trinity Force at the around 15-minute mark, and that's super important to know. And that's not always the case if you were to actually rush Iceborn Gauntlet. It does provide smooth interactions with Nidalee. This is actually really important. I think a lot of people overlook the abilities of Triforce. For one, the move speed. That's obviously really good. But the passive where you kill a unit and then you get more move speed and stuff, this is really good on Nidalee because you have so many combos to actually kill enemy minions or champs. And to get that extra move speed to gap close between you and possibly another champion, or you to run away, is super, super important, especially in top lane where the lane is actually longer. It's expensive, but like I said, it provides the damage that is needed. Yeah, so that's going to be everything. I think I went over basically everything as much as I could in a small amount of time. I don't want to make this a super long video. But I do... Once again, I do personally believe that Trinity Force, in more cases, is better than Iceborn because Iceborn is better in super specific situations. So hopefully this was useful to you guys and you can actually get an understanding of when to buy either item. And if you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure to subscribe and hit that like button so I know that you guys did enjoy this video. And I think I'll do more of these kind of informational videos about maybe items or builds or, you know, whatever kind of thing. So hopefully you guys did enjoy, and I will be seeing you guys next time. Have a great day, and Chumbles out.